Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Hahn, for joining us today. I also want to welcome your wife and family who are with you today, and I want to welcome our colleague, Senator Cornyn. Thank you for being here today to introduce Dr. Hahn to our committee. Each year, 20 cents of every dollar Americans spend goes to products the Food and Drug Administration regulates. Every day, people put the well-being of themselves, their families, and even their pets in the FDA's hands. When we sit down for a meal, we count on the FDA's efforts to ensure the safety of 80% of our food supply and provide us with the information we need to make healthy choices. When we get our prescriptions filled or turn to medical devices to stay healthy, we count on the FDA's work to uphold the gold standard of safety and effectiveness. We don't have to look hard for reminders of just how enormous the FDA's responsibility is. A few years ago, more than 30 patients at a hospital in Seattle were infected with a superbug by contaminated medical devices, and over a third of them died. The FDA eventually recalled the devices after an investigation by my staff found outbreaks linked to the devices worldwide. Over the last 2 years, several states, including Washington State, have faced an E. coli outbreak from romaine lettuce, resulting in over 230 illnesses and 5 deaths. This year, the FDA announced millions of patients were exposed to blood pressure and heartburn medicines with carcinogens. And across the country, FDA's failure to meaningfully regulate vaping products has allowed youth tobacco use to skyrocket, driven largely by flavored e-cigarette products. We need to make sure the FDA has strong, experienced leadership who will uphold the agency's mission to protect public health, which is why this hearing is so important, because President Trump has an incredibly poor track record when it comes to nominations, from his cabinet to the courts to critical government agencies. He has repeatedly put forward nominees with alarming ethical problems and conflicts of interest, nominees without any relevant experience or qualification, and nominees with long track records of putting ideology or partisanship ahead of science, data, and families' best interests. People are counting on us to do this vetting and to do it seriously, especially because the President won't. So given what I've seen so far, I have some reservations regarding Dr. Hahn's qualifications to lead the Food and Drug Administration. Dr. Hahn has almost no government experience, no public record on policy issues related to the FDA, and no experience leading an organization anywhere near as complex as the FDA. So I want to be clear what I will be looking for from Dr. Hahn today. First and foremost, I will be looking at his commitment to putting science and data ahead of ideology. This is fundamental to the FDA's work, and when it doesn't happen, people are put in harm's way. People are unable to get the care they need. Good example is emergency contraception known as Plan B. It's now available to people all over the country. But when FDA was considering whether to make Plan B more widely available, I had to fight really hard to make sure science and data would ultimately win out over ideology and political pressure so women across the country could finally get Plan B over the counter. And getting these priorities right is perhaps more important than ever given how much President Trump has let ideology drive policy decisions. And putting families' needs first also means quickly following through on strong regulation of e-cigarettes. Right now, we are in the middle of a public health crisis. Millions of children are becoming addicted to tobacco products. The Trump administration's 2017 decision to delay oversight of e-cigarette products was an absolute disaster. Instead of taking strong action to protect children's health, the FDA has instead allowed youth e-cigarette use to more than double among high school students and more than triple among middle school students in just the last 2 years. And now, over 2 months after President Trump promised strong action, he reportedly plans to back away from steps to clear unauthorized flavored e-cigarettes from the market. He has shown he is more swayed by the tobacco industry and politics than by our children's health. We need an FDA commissioner who will push back hard so children's health comes first, who will finally clear the market of all non-tobacco flavored e-cigarettes, including menthol, nationally instead of offering more delays or half steps, and who will take strong, decisive action to protect our kids from combustible tobacco products as well. I will also be looking at Dr. Hahn's commitment to putting families' needs ahead of companies' profits, because the FDA absolutely must prioritize making sure drugs and devices are safe and effective. And it should also be doing whatever it can to make sure they are accessible and affordable too. For example, the FDA should do everything it can to facilitate the development and approval of biosimilar insulin, a life-saving drug that many patients struggle to afford, including ensuring a smooth transition of insulin products to the biologics pathway in March 2020. This is an important step to help cheaper follow-on versions come to market. Finally, I'll be looking at Dr. Hahn's commitment to continue upholding the FDA's gold standard for safety and effectiveness in drugs and medical devices. I am alarmed by changes the Trump administration has proposed to FDA's medical device review program, including a proposal to pre-certify software developers and a decision to apparently break a commitment it made to me to limit a conditional approval pathway to certain animal drugs by expanding it to human medical products as well. I'm concerned these proposals are not consistent with the FDA's gold standard and may compromise patient safety, and I expect Dr. Hahn to revisit them if confirmed. We need an FDA Commissioner who will unquestionably put data and science and families' best interests ahead of ideology or politics or companies' bottom lines, who will uphold the gold standards that make sure drugs and medical devices are safe and effective, and who has the experience necessary to lead this massive agency and its over 17,000 employees in tackling a wide range of challenges like the ongoing opioid epidemic, drug shortages, the increasing risk of antimicrobial resistance, and much more. Dr. Hahn, I'm going to be listening very closely to your testimony today and asking you about some of the issues I think are particularly important during questioning, and I hope all of our colleagues will continue to work with me to make sure we thoroughly vet your nomination. This role is simply too important for us to do anything less. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.